I'm Ananya Datta and I'm back with another edition of Race to Power. Coming up in this broadcast, we spoke at length about abortion yesterday, how reproductive rights have become an important issue in this year's US election. But the debate is not limited to the United States. Europe has some strong views and the voters are listening. Now, what happens when the president is of one party and your parliament is run by another? You get South Korea, a country where political deadlocks have led to a handful of reforms. Now the Prime Minister, President's advisors and the party head have all offered to resign. The question is, what will Yoon do next? South Korea's opposition has emerged victorious in an action-packed election, and the ruling party's top leadership, including the Prime Minister, have tendered their resignations in the face of defeat. But amid all this, what does this mean for President Yoon is the question.
With a record 67% turnout, results reveal that South Korean voters have given the mandate to the country's liberal opposition, the Democratic Party. The DP, which previously held a majority in the National Assembly, is pegged to secure just under 200 seats with its allies, of the total 300-strong assembly.
I express my sincere gratitude to the people for supporting the Democratic Party so that we could exceed our goal of gaining majority. The election result is not a victory for the Democratic Party, but a great victory for our people. The Democratic Party will do our best to respect the precious meaning contained in each vote cast by the people.
On the other hand, President Yoon's People Power Party and its allies are touted to win 109 seats. In the face of crushing defeat, South Korea's Prime Minister and senior presidential officials have offered to resign. The party's interim leader, while accepting the will of the people, announced his resignation.
I sternly accept the will of the people and will first deeply reflect on myself. I take full responsibility for the election results and step down.
But
the April 10 polls were not just a regular legislative election. Rather, they were seen as a midterm confidence vote on President Yoon. With 2 of 5 years completed in office, Yoon has been facing criticism over a slew of issues, ranging from food inflation and corruption scandals to the more recent doctor strike which began in February. Several experts raised the question of a possible impeachment of the president should the opposition secure a 200-strong supermajority in the National Assembly.
The outcome of this election has prevented possible impeachment for President Yoon Suk-yeol, with more than 200 seats or constitutional amendment quelling worries over these issues. But with the opposition at nearly 190 seats, I think difficulties with passing legislation, budget and state administration will continue in the future.
With 99% of the vote counted, results reveal that the Democratic Party has narrowly missed the mark needed to impeach a president. It seems that Yoon's remaining term is safe for now. But there is no doubt that with an opposition majority in Assembly, the next 3 years in office remain an uphill climb. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Now, the big abortion debate is not just limited to the United States. It's an issue that has gripped the Western world. And the latest country to be caught in this storm is Poland. As we speak, Polish lawmakers are debating the existing and potential future of abortion laws in the European nation. The issue has been high on the agenda ever since Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk won elections in October last year. For Tusk, abortion rights was a key campaign promise that created a rift within the country's pro-European coalition in the past few weeks. The debate focuses on 3 bills, each of which has been put forward by one of the 3 coalition groupings. 2 bills, if passed, would make abortion legal without limitations until 12 weeks of pregnancy. The 3rd bill reinstates the right to abortion in case of fetal abnormalities, returning to the pre-2021 situation before a constitutional court ruling banned such procedures. In the year 2021, the previous nationalist government had passed a near total ban on abortion. The only exception was in the case of rape, incest, or danger to the woman's health or life. But terminations of pregnancies with fetal defects are banned under the current law. In terms of opinion on the ground, while Poland is a predominantly Catholic nation, more and more people have called for abortion rights. A recent survey by Ipsos said that 62% of the pollsters support the right to abortion until 12 weeks.
Pani marszałek,
Now, to take this discussion further, we are being joined by Anne-Elizabeth Moutet from Paris. She is a columnist and at the London Telegraph. Ms. Moutet, thank you so much for speaking with us here on WION. I want to ask you, how do you expect this abortion debate to pan out today in Poland?
To be honest, I've talked with various Polish friends, and they are on both sides of that fence, and they are absolutely unsure because, as it was, the bill that was passed 3 years ago by the Nationalist Law and Justice Party itself they were pushed into this by a minority member of their own coalition who believe that the right of the soul of the fetus is eternal. It's a very religious debate, which is understandable in some ways in Poland. And they themselves passed that bill trying to sort of make some fences, such as your correspondent described, the fact that it is still possible to have an abortion now that the strong law is in force, in case of rape, in case of danger to the health of the mother, etc. But on both sides, you've got on the Tusk coalition, you also have one of the three parties of the Tusk coalition who have the same qualms about saying that an abortion is essentially the murder of a human soul. Added to this, there's an argument that has been thrown into the debate is that the disputed provision about fetuses that would have malformations, grave malformations, this is akin to eugenism as practiced by the Nazis. If you're not good enough, if you're disabled, you have no right to live. And you can imagine that the evocation of the Nazi regime is something that causes sort of great trouble in Poland because they suffered so much from it.
Right. Ms. Moutet, you know, here on WION just yesterday, we were discussing a lot about reproductive rights specific to abortion in the United States and how that is definitely on the ballot in this year's November election. But when it comes to Europe, and we know that the European parliamentary elections are also just coming up, how do you expect this kind of a debate that's ongoing across Europe, not just in Poland? Who do you think it favors more, the Conservatives or the Liberals?
By and large, I would say that it favors more the Liberals. If you take the Eastern European neighbors of Poland, places like Hungary, places like Slovakia, Ukraine for that matter, which is not yet a member of the EU, which was definitely a European country, there's a much more relaxed attitude to the possibility of abortion to a limit that goes from 12 to 14 weeks. And Poland is a very Catholic country, and so it's part of their own tradition. You have some parties in places from Spain, another Catholic country historically, that sort of put this in the debate. But I would say that by and large, the debate is already won in most of Europe. You have Ireland. Ireland is also a very complicated country, but they still passed a bill that enables, that gives provisions for a large number of sort of legal abortions.
Absolutely, Ms. Moutet. It does seem very interesting that you see that this entire debate favors the Liberals, given that we are also seeing a very sharp right turn, if I may call, in the Europe. So this will be extremely interesting to see how the trend goes on. Thank you so much for speaking with us here on WION and getting us all your insights.
Thank you.
Speaking of the United States, another day, another legal setback for Donald Trump. The former US president has lost a third bid to get his hush money trial postponed. On Wednesday, a New York appeals court rejected yet another last-ditch attempt by Trump's legal team to try and delay his hush money trial. The case is scheduled to begin on Monday, April 15th, and will be the first criminal case against the Republican leader to begin trial. Trump's lawyer had argued that, and I'm quoting here, as the presumed Republican nominee for US presidential elections in November, Donald Trump should be out on the campaign trail instead of being in a courtroom defending himself. To give our viewers a quick background, Trump has been accused of falsifying business records to allegedly hide payments made to porn star Stormy Daniels as hush money in order to stop her from making details of their affair public. Trump allegedly had an affair with Daniels back in 2006 and had paid her $130,000 via his former lawyer Michelle Cohen before the 2016 presidential election. Now the timing of the trial is crucial. As we mentioned, this is the first of 4 criminal cases to actually begin trial just 7 months before elections. Should Donald Trump get convicted, experts believe that it could hurt his election bid. But to what extent will it make a difference, and if Republican voters will switch loyalties, that is a million-dollar question, of course.
Some people who might support Donald Trump without a conviction might change their minds and not support him with a conviction. Although, given everything that's happened and given how much trouble Donald Trump has already faced without losing a great base of his support, it's hard to really know what the political effects of any of this would be.
Time and again, Donald Trump has called the accusations against him a political witch hunt. But with courtroom drama to officially begin next week, the legal journey will tell us if his statements are true or not.
Okay, thank you.
Now, Indian voters are just days away from casting ballots in the Lok Sabha elections. But which issue will actually dominate the voters' minds as they arrive at their final destination? According to a survey, it's not corruption, it's not reservation, and it's not the Ram temple in Ayodhya. A pre-poll survey by the Center for Study of Developing Societies looked at over 10,000 voters across 19 states, and their foremost concern are unemployment and rising prices. If we compare this with the CSDS study in the last general election in 2019, the percentage of those considering unemployment as the most important issue has increased from 11% to 27%. Similarly, price rise is the most important issue, also witnessed a huge rise of 19% over 2019. Now, this poll comes at a time when leaders are spending their days at campaign rallies and public events just over a week before voters head to polling stations. It's important here to look at issues that often find their place on the campaign trail, such as corruption or reservations. Not many voters mention these issues as their most important concern. However, the poll also reflected that respondents were aware of both of these issues and others as well. In other words, voters have multiple concerns. While some of them are at the top of their minds, others, if raised by the campaigns, too have the potential to affect the voters. We now slip into a short break. Coming up next, Rishi Sunak is under the scanner once again. We will bring you the details on the other side of this short break. Stay tuned.
The biggest democratic exercise on the planet ever. Decoding the multiple colors of this multi-dimensional, multi-layered spectacle. WION deciphers the images and the hues, sifts real performance from rhetoric and noise, claims and counter-claims, populist pitches and hidden truths, untangling unraveling this celebration of democracy.
On the next episode of World of Africa, African leaders and global dignitaries mark 30th anniversary of Rwandan genocide as French President Emmanuel Macron receives backlash for stating that France and its allies could have stopped the 1994 genocide but lacked the will to do so. South African government goes hard on corruption just weeks ahead of national polls. Country's parliament speaker is forced to resign. And in an effort to remember and honor Nigerian schoolgirls still missing 10 years after their abduction by Islamist insurgents in Chibok, a film titled Statues Also Breathe is screened. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION. World is One.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Welcome back. You're watching Race to Power. Thanks for staying with us. Speaking of United Kingdom now, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Eat Out to Help Out policy is again under the radar. In the latest, reports claim that Sunak spent more than $2.5 million on focus groups to promote his campaign, while UK government's top medical advisors say that they were not even consulted about the scheme. According to a report by UK publication The Guardian, then Chancellor Rishi Sunak ordered extensive polling during the pandemic. It further adds that UK's Treasury Department negotiated 5 public opinion deals worth more than $2.5 million. These contracts also included plans to establish how to quote-unquote sell the hospitality scheme to voters. In 2020, then Chancellor Sunak launched the campaign. The scheme aimed to protect jobs in the hospitality sector by encouraging people to dine out. Under the scheme, diners received a state-funded £10 discount. Researchers claim that COVID-19 cases soared by at least 17% after the policy's implementation. Senior scientific advisors told the COVID inquiry that they were not consulted before Sunak launched the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. Earlier, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak defended the 2020 scheme and his handling of the pandemic at the COVID inquiry. Sunak insisted that government's scientific advisors had the opportunity to raise concerns. The scheme cost was more than $1 billion and it covered 160 million meals. However, analysis by several experts claim benefits were small and also transitory. According to a study by London School of Economics, the program failed to encourage people to go out after the discount ended. Main opposition party Labour accused Sunak of using the research by focus groups to polish his own image, while adding that Sunak only cared about how the scheme will affect his own political standing. According to an internal report by Treasury, there is little evidence that the Eat Out to Help Out scheme led directly to a spike in infections. However, the report was never made public. Let's shift focus now. The ruling junta in Mali announced a suspension of all political activities in the country until further notice. They claim that this move is executed in order to maintain public order. The decision was announced by the ruling junta spokesperson during the Eid ul-Fitr celebrations. The decree came after more than 80 political parties and civil groups on April 1st issued joint statements calling for presidential elections as soon as possible. They have all demanded an end to military rule. After taking charge in the second coup in 2021, Colonel Assimi Goita promised to return the country to democracy in early 2024. But in September, the junta cancelled elections scheduled for February 2024 indefinitely, citing technical reasons. Now, Mali has faced 2 coups since the year 2020, leading to instability across West and Central Africa. This is further compounded by a prolonged insurgency by jihadi groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group for over a decade. Mali previously relied on French troops to help push back the insurgents. Frustrated with the lack of progress, Mali opted to replace French troops with Russian contractors for security assistance after French forces departed in August of 2022. Let's shift focus to Sri Lanka now, where President Ranil Wickremesinghe is expected to contest the presidential elections later this year under a new symbol. A senior advisor to the president has revealed that he will represent several parties as a national candidate. Sri Lanka's Election Commission has to hold the next presidential election by November this year. Following anti-government protests over the unprecedented economic crisis in Sri Lanka in 2022, Ranil Wickremesinghe replaced Mahinda Rajapaksa as Prime Minister in May of that year. 2 months later, after President Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigned and fled the country, Wickremesinghe replaced him as President to serve the balanced term until the end of 2024. The veteran politician has led the United National Party since 1994. He has served as Prime Minister on 5 occasions, leading 6 governments. Just last month, Ranil Wickremesinghe announced that the country will be holding presidential elections first and then parliamentary elections. According to a cabinet note, over $120 million and $17,000 has been set aside to conduct both these elections. According to senior presidential advisor and UNP senior leader, Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe will be contesting elections under a new symbol and not the elephant symbol, with several parties already pledging their support for him.
I am Ranil Wickremesinghe, not Ranil Rajapaksa.
And with that, we are wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching with me, Ananya Datta.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow